everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. How's everyone doing today? I spent a large chunk of my day at the vet hospital while my little boy Squee got chemotherapy, and it's apparently we can go down from chemo every 3 weeks to now chemo every 4 weeks, and that's good. He's been in remission for a while. It's a chronic condition, so he's got to keep getting that chemo, but things are looking up. So yay! This intro is almost on the verge of turning into a WTF intro. I talk about cats, talk about fascism, as I will in a moment, probably, knowing myself. So why don't I just short circuit that and get right into today's episode. Today I'm talking to the band Male. That's M parentheses H N parentheses AOL. If you don't know who they are, I'm going to read you their bio right now. Formed in 2014, the Dublin and London-based band Male, made up of Constance Keane, Jamie Hyland, and Sean Nolan, released a few EPs and singles in their early days, but it wasn't until 2023 that they released their first full-length album, Attachment Styles. A mere 2 years later, they've put out their second album, Something Soft, on Merge Records, and folks, it's a delight. This is a fun talk. You know, not every guest and I are on the same comedic wavelength, but we were really able to, I'll say this, I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll say this, Connie, late in the episode, calls back to something, and I didn't call it out in the interview, but I did make a mental note. I'm like, ooh, a callback. So anyway, so it's nice to have folks on where we can kind of joke around and get to some serious stuff. You know, I'm not a huge fan of having more than one person on the show. You know, you have less time to kind of get into it because you got to divide your attention between everyone, and also just in terms of putting the podcast together, it's a nightmare to edit. But sometimes a band isn't just the brainchild of one person, and Male's one of those bands. And we got some interesting stuff, even with a bunch of people on the Zoom together in 4 different places between Europe and, well, I guess England's, not in the EU anymore. Are they still in Europe? Or do they even break away from that? I have no idea. But between Europe and America. Anyway, one other thing, I thought this was interesting. You know, my criticisms of America are not unwarranted. That it is making me feel quite angry and depressed and resentful living here these days. And it was interesting, though, as down as I have been about America, Connie and Jamie and Sean, who had toured here recently, were very positive. I mean, not about the government. The government's monstrous. But I think something I thought of as I was listening back to it was, I think when I say America, what I mean by America is not the country necessarily. What I mean is really, I guess, the government and the American ruling class. And when Male was talking about America, they meant the people. Interesting distinction. Anyway, I hope you like this episode. Coming up on the show, if you like music, we got more music for you. Tune Yards, David Bazan from Pedro the Lion, Daniel Littleton of Ida. We got Comics People, Kelly Sue DeConnick, Michael DeForge. Those are all great talks. I hope you like them. So stay tuned for that. But for now, let's talk to Male. Since there's more than one person, do y'all want to introduce? By the way, I just said y'all. For some reason, I was walking around my house this morning, amusing myself by imagining talking to you in a Southern accent, a Southern American accent.
See, but that's great because I manage the band with Jill Wheeler, who's amazing, and she's actually from North Carolina and also grew up in Tennessee. So she calls us y'all all the time.
I would expect nothing less.
Does she ever go, y'all from Dublin?
Yeah. It's more, do y'all want to play this gig? And we're like, okay.
Y'all want to go to Newchester? Is that a place? Could be a place. It sounds like
Could
a
be.
place.
I'd believe you, Andy.
I thought that was going to be a place in North Carolina, Newchester.
I was just imagining some place kind of like the Midlands, maybe. I don't know. Called Newchester.
Could be.
Do you want to introduce yourselves since there's more than one voice?
I'll start. Hi, I'm Jamie. I play bass and male, and I record everything and do all the post-production work.
Hi, I'm Connie. I play the drums and I do some vocals in male.
I'm Sean, and I play the guitar, and that's pretty much it.
Don't you love just a formal kind of like almost like you're at a corporate icebreaker having to like
It felt like team building.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, yeah. It's like we should be throwing a ball between us.
No, I have the talking ball. I put it down here somewhere.
It's not a great way to start a conversation. Just as formal as possible.
Yeah.
It's so nice to meet you, Andy. Regards, Male.
Wait, before we started recording, I was asking about traveling to the U.S. I mean, every story I hear now about people trying to come into the country is like a horror story.
Yeah.
I mean, living here is kind of a horror story, but how are you preparing or how did you prepare to come here? Or maybe it wasn't a problem when you were here.
We were preparing from like a year beforehand, and like our whole issues with getting into America were just we couldn't get visas in time for a bunch of shows that we were supposed to do last summer. But then, yeah, I guess in terms of actually coming into the country this time, I didn't pack any like femme clothes. I packed entirely mask clothes because I was just like, I don't want to be attacked in public.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah, oh yeah, what a positive experience.
You're like, woo, we're going on tour.
I think at one point beforehand, I like messaged Connie just being like, I'm a little freaked out. And she's like, yeah, fair enough. And I was like, do you think I could get a gun while we're in Texas? And she was like,
yeah, probably, right?
I was like, what you do is your business, but you can't take it out of Texas. So I don't know what the game plan is there, Jamie, long term. Yeah, it was America seems to be in a bit of a funny spot at the moment. I mean, I'm a cis woman, and I found it like pretty uncomfortable. People also really, really want to talk about how horrible it is, which I totally understand. Because I would be doing the same if I lived somewhere where these types of things were happening. But it did also feel like small talk didn't exist.
Oh no, it's gone. Small talk disappeared.
How are you doing? And people are like, we're dying. And I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to hear some songs?
What did somebody say to us one time when we met them? Was like, hey, how does it feel to have like entered a falling empire?
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Pretty cool. Yeah. Do you want to buy a t-shirt?
They're like, do you barter? I can trade you some canned goods.
There was a lot of people being like, can you please take us home with you? Which was new. I mean, I've been to the States a few times, and that was new for me, I would say. But also, like, I'm laughing when I say it, but it's obviously like an absolutely horrific situation that is going on over there. And for us as a band, especially with the makeup of our band, you know, I feel really glad that we went and that we played those shows for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But our visa expires next month, and it will cost us so much money to get a new visa because the prices have gone up so high, and the wait times are like minimum 9 months at the moment. That, you know, we've been trying to plan to go back over to this quote unquote falling empire. But it's like it's slipping further and further away. And it's that interesting argument in my head where, I don't know if it would really be for us to be going there at the moment. But at the same time, playing for marginalized people when you're making political music is also a really important thing to do. So it's kind of about like weighing that up, but also we're broke, so we actually can't afford to do that right now.
Yeah. I don't even know how one would balance any of that.
I mean, if one of us gets really good at gambling,
Yeah.
my money's on Sean for that one.
No, I don't have gambling. I don't have that one.
There's online poker. Hey, if you can.
Yeah. No, I don't think I should start with anything like that.
I think what we start with is betting on who's going to be the new pope.
Okay.
I feel like you're the one who's going to get that, though.
Yeah. I feel like you've been following that a lot more closely.
Listen, it's that and the Reformer Pilates, my whole personality.
Who's the most regressive cardinal? If you bet on that person, that's probably the person who's going to be pope at this point.
I'm really
that's the way the world is heading, correct?
I'm hoping for a huge plot twist where the one beacon of hope for progression is in fact the Catholic Church.
Yeah. It's been
everything has been so ridiculous up until this point that I'm like, maybe we could just spice things up a bit, and the Catholic Church could be the people really pointing to the future.
I mean, why not? Everything is insane, so sure.
I know who I want to get elected. Let's just say I've got my person picked out.
I don't think you qualify, Connie.
I can't vote. Oh God. Being a woman.
Wait, hold on. Do you actually know who the people in contention for the papacy? Sorry, I'm Jewish, so I'm just like...
Oh, Andy, in a big way. In a big way. I've been doing all the reading. I've been watching the odds. I've been watching YouTube videos about the different people. But Francis, I don't think they thought he was going to become Pope when he went into the last conclave. So it could be a randomer. There's a lot of hype around 3 different cardinals right now. But honestly, it could be anyone.
Hey, make a prediction now, because this will probably come out this is going to come out in like about a month, maybe a little more. So,
I think it's going to, yeah, okay.
It might take longer than that.
Really?
I think there was, like, after John Paul, it took like 6 weeks or something. It was like a while.
The
Wasn't
one, the one I want is this guy, Luis Antonio Tegal.
Okay.
He's my vibe.
What's his deal?
Where is he at?
Okay, so he's still like really bad on things like abortion. So obviously, we're not like fully down for having drinks with Tegal yet.
Right.
But he's very okay with divorced people, and he's like kind of a chiller about LGBTQ plus issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's better than the last one, I guess.
We're doing well. The last one said that dogs went to heaven, which I was pretty into. But anyway.
So basically
Sorry. If you want to talk about upbringings.
So yeah.
You're speaking to 3 Catholics.
So okay.
I'm a Protestant.
Oh, sorry, Jamie.
2 Catholics and a Protestant.
Yeah.
All right. This is my basic knowledge of Ireland. So
there you go.
That's pretty much the makeup, yeah.
right.
Dude,
I know there's some kerfluffle at some point.
You boil it all down to 3 Catholics and a Protestant. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I was thinking about this. I'm like, I know a fair amount of world history, but I've had to investigate it on my own because in America, you're lucky if you have any kind of knowledge about your own history, let alone any other country.
Is this podcast just called Fuck America? Just out of interest.
Fuck America, specifically LA, but also everywhere else.
Yeah, maybe since 2016 or so. I mean, look, I take the dividing line as really 2000. The Supreme Court here basically handed George W. Bush, the presidency.
Not
And
a great
that's,
guy.
I think, the dividing line to me between kind of just
Yeah.
like, things are not great, but they're like okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now we're on the other side of the roller coaster, and there's no brakes, and at the bottom is just like a bunch of spikes. And so,
Are we at the spikes yet?
close.
Okay. Sick.
Close. What are the
So it can get worse, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What are the odds that my wife and I could move to Ireland
For how long?
the rest of our lives?
I mean, I feel like once you're here, it's a bit easier, right?
I think so. I mean, Ireland also does still have problems.
Yeah,
So,
Sure.
just to say,
we are
But-
importing some of the problems from over there.
yeah, there's like a really nasty anti-immigration thing going on right now, especially like online in Ireland. But they did kind of appear more powerful than they actually were last year. We had like a general election, and everybody was pretty worried because there were a few candidates whose like entire selling point was that they
Ireland for the
hated
Irish.
immigrants.
Yeah.
And then they didn't really get elected.
What is your version of the Tories, or what's Farage's thing? Like, what's your version? of those?
Reform.
Reform.
So we have a couple of like small factions of those people. I can't remember. It's like
It'd probably be like Ain 2 is probably
Yeah.
the closest, but
I'd
That's
say,
pretty
so,
small.
yeah.
yeah,
but they don't have like an outsized influence.
no.
No.
no. I think they've 2, maybe 3 people in the dome.
Yeah, it's pretty chill.
yeah,
Um,
not that much.
but we're also like not particularly left wing either.
It's very centrist, like very,
Yeah, it's
very.
a very centrist country, I would say.
I'd take centrist now at this
Listen,
point.
Andy, I know. Okay.
See, like the issue with centrism though is that like if you accept centrism now, it's going to be like way further right than what the center should actually be, and like you have to push like as far left as you can, and then go like, okay, fucking new center.
I
Yeah,
agree,
it's-
but I'm just saying I would take it at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know,
and
I know.
I don't fault you for that, Andy.
So wait, but you were saying, okay, 2 Catholics and a Protestant.
Yeah. That's actually what the next album should be called. Is just Two Catholics and a Protestant.
Yeah.
We could get a reality show called Two Catholics and a Protestant.
Were you raised religiously? Like, were you raised where that was like where faith was actually important, or were you raised in a way in which it was just a thing you did?
So I was very much like raised atheist and just like culturally Protestant from attending Protestant schools. Like the other two, you guys went to Catholic schools, didn't you?
Yeah.
So like you guys had
Yeah.
like mass as part of your school time.
I was
thing.
an altar server
Yeah.
Yeah.
as a child.
What's that?
Like the way, I guess the way the school system works is that like, at least when we would have been in school, not so much now, that pretty much like the public schools, as in like the non-fee paying schools, would have been run by the church or like a religious organization. So most people went to
Yeah.
a form of religious school up until like
Yeah.
15 years ago, maybe. When you start getting more like non-denominational
Yeah.
schools.
Like I went to an all girls
Yeah.
school run by nuns.
Oh,
Yeah. But that's normal.
Yeah, that's
and that was
super
normal. Yeah.
I wasn't when I grew up, I wasn't brought up going to mass every week, or anything like that, to be honest. But my grandparents would have been super religious, like went to mass every day. And
Same.
then when I was like 10 and 11, I'd say, I was an altar server because I would get out of class on a Friday if I went to go do that. But because I was not a child who had been brought to mass a lot, so I didn't really know a lot about what was going on. But I liked the robe. And one time I served at a mass for the then President of Ireland,
That was Mary McAleese, wasn't it?
Mary McAleese. There you
Yeah.
go. She is, I think, Irish society is probably less practicing Catholic, more culturally Catholic. in general.
So what's culturally Catholic for? Because I know what culturally Catholic here is.
Have
but
you ever, Andy? Have you ever felt guilty for anything?
Yeah, I'm Jewish. That's the basis. That's the thing that connects me to other Catholics. My best friend
There
we
growing up
go.
is Catholic. Yes.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Guilt and shame. That's the
Guilt and shame.
the molecules that make up
Yeah.
most of my
Yeah.
body. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, guilt, shame, and some cool outfits, I would say, is kind of the basis for a lot of it.
Yeah, for you, what do we have? We have yarmulkes, we have like taluses. They're not that cool. It's like a fun scarf.
Yarmulkes are pretty cool.
Yarmulkes are okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yarmulkes are okay. I got for my bar mitzvah, I had one that had like it was like felt. It was nice.
Ooh. What color was it?
Blue, royal blue.
I was going
I
to go
love
with
that.
green, but nice.
So yeah. So okay. So but yeah.
So, like, There's part of the cultural Catholicism thing is like, I don't know if you guys would have had it. My mom would have had it in her family that like you would observe the not eating meat on a Friday. Is that the thing, or is it?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Like there are things like that, and like, you know, the idea of having like a Lenten vow, like even if we weren't practicing.
Yeah.
And especially even if I'm like culturally Protestant, there is still that kind of thing of like everybody has to give up sweets for 4 weeks
Yeah, for Lent,
because it's Lent. And it's like, okay, well, sure. Really? Do I have
Totally.
to? So yeah, like it's the culture of it like pervades every little aspect.
Like I feel like people still have, well, maybe not as much Catholic weddings, Catholic funerals, but still more or less, you know, the vast majority of people still get buried on consecrated ground, have a church wedding, church funeral.
Even if
kind of
they
thing.
don't go to mass the rest of the year.
And even like people still getting like baptized and stuff.
Yeah.
It's still done,
Yeah.
regardless of if like they have any intention of like raising that child religiously or
even the Jews, are we getting baptized? And
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Depends on what school you wanna
Literally,
get
it's based on what school.
so okay, so it's basically it permeates everything.
Yeah, in a sense. I think more so when we were kids, though, than
Yeah.
now. I do think there has been, in our generation, there has been another step away from it, I'd say.
When I say it permeates, is it suffocating? Like, did you find yourselves when you were growing up kind of stifled by it, or is it just, or were you able to like no one cared if you kind of sidestepped the orthodoxies of both Protestantism and Catholicism?
I think there was a big, big gap between our parents' generation and our generation in terms of that. Like, my mom would have been brought up her whole like life with the main thing that she would be praying for is a peaceful death.
No.
And she would have been told that like life is a veil of tears. That's it. Like you're not meant to really have you're not meant to have many like hopes and dreams, I guess. You're meant to just be really devoted to being a good person because that's what Jesus was. And she talks about it having been like very, very suffocating. I mean, you know, her time was maybe slightly towards the end of some really awful institutional Catholicism going on in Ireland, like with these things called Magdalene laundries, which were like institutions where they put unmarried mothers and then they would like take the children away from the women and send them off for adoption or kill them. Like there was some real at that point. I mean, the Catholic Church had such a grip on every aspect of society that I imagine it was a lot more suffocating than when we were growing up.
Yeah, totally. Like the whole thing with the Magdalene laundries as well is that it's not even just like if you got pregnant or if you were like likely to have gotten pregnant. It's just like if you were a woman who was like hard to manage, if you had like, if you were outspoken about your own views or like anything like that, or like, yeah, just couldn't be trusted to be obedient, you were like potentially going to be locked up in there.
So it was a way of disciplining people to keep them in line.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Fun.
So I guess maybe I know all of our parents are sort of varying ages as well, but I guess maybe the way we were raised is slightly bit looser as a
Yeah.
sort of reaction to that
I'd say so. I mean, I got to a stage in my like late teens, early 20s where I would decide if I was going to go to Christmas Mass based off if the Pope had said something that pissed me off that year. And my mom was like, that's chill. So I did go the year that he said that dogs could go to heaven.
That's why that stuck in your head.
I was like, that's fine. You did well, Francis.
That's a good man.
I'll go to your little mass there. That's fine.
Wait, is it just dogs or all pets? Or all animals?
It's animals, but there was special. There was coverage around the dogs.
Sure.
But that's actually like quite a fundamental thing to tell people that happens. Anyway, whatever. We can talk about theology another time.
Well, no, how far does it go down? Are we talking all the way down to viruses or, wherever we
Oh my gosh.
decide
I hadn't even thought about that, Andy.
Because viruses, we say, are not alive. They're kind of like a step after.
Yeah.
So you have like crystals, which are definitely not alive, but grow. And then viruses, which we say are not alive. But that's kind of the dividing line. Then bacteria are on the other side. So do bacteria go to heaven?
Surely there's bacteria in heaven. That to
Place
me
is
just
filthy.
makes logical sense.
Well, I guess it would depend on what kind of
Yeah.
lives they led.
That's it. The bacteria would get to those gates. Do they? Maybe-
Do they go to
maybe
hell?
They're going way
Hold on.
down.
Does limbo only exist for bacteria?
There. Purgatory has to
Bacteria.
be
Purgatory is just bacteria. And
that. Or wait, purgatory doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
does it? Does it not?
No.
No. Did we get rid of? Okay.
I think Francis did that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I asked about how suffocating it was because I am always curious when I talk to my guests about how do you get out from under a stifling existential cookie cutter, right? That a lot of times I also describe it as kind of like a script. A lot of people are handed a script. I don't know if it's the same, if it's as forceful in Ireland as it is here, but like it's a script and you're supposed to have a family, a job you don't like, but you do the job to provide for your family. And then, kind of, Connie, like you said, your mom, you just hope for a peaceful death and that's that. And that's what you're supposed to do. And deviating from that is very difficult. And I'm curious if it was difficult to get out from under that for the three of you.
So, like, in terms of does that hold over here, I think that is just life under Western capitalism. So anywhere that has that is going to have that same thing of like, oh, you don't have to like your job. In fact, like, yeah, go and spend 8 hours a day hating yourself because you need money. Personally, like I don't know, the cookie cutter analogy for me, I just imagined like you cut out the cookie and you put the little gingerbread man on the bacon tray and then it just dissolves. Like, you can try and like hold it all into the cookie mold, but like, I don't know, I very quickly was just like, oh, but what if I do the thing that I actually like instead? So,
But Jamie, it wasn't difficult to kind of do that, or it was a struggle. That's what I'm curious about.
like, yeah, it's a struggle to make it viable because it's not like, obviously there are ways of working in music that are like, are viable within the constraints of capitalism, but like being a musician, being an artist at all is kind of not. It's fundamentally like creating art is like not a commercial enterprise. Like the entire music business is then there to not like solely to commercialize it, but it's to like make it viable for artists to actually be able to survive off it. So yeah, that's my opinion.
I never really felt like I was supposed to be a a certain thing, I would say. It like housewife, yeah,
Housewife.
yeah. I never felt like that. I mean, yeah, my mom was raised being told life is a veil of tears and just get on with things. But then she did, like, my mom was then the first person in her extended family to go to, like, college and stuff. So she, like, was very involved in, like, an anti-nuclear movement in Ireland. So she did way more of the, like, stepping outside what she was supposed to do than I ever really felt. Yeah, I mean, I think that for me more it came from, I guess, like figuring out what I was supposed to do as a girl as I was growing up, and um what kind of music I was supposed to like or how I was supposed to dress in like a Catholic girls' school was a little bit challenging, I would say. People thought I was very weird, but maybe I was. I don't know. Like I didn't like the things that my classmates were into for the most part. And they didn't like what I was into. And I was fairly okay with that because I had friends outside of school that really liked music. So it all kind of worked out okay in the end. But yeah, definitely. I mean, like turning up to school where everyone's like, "Why aren't you fake tanned?" Of course is a bit is a little bit suffocating, and it does make you question yourself, especially when you're like 14. But over time, I think I just kind of got used to it. Like me playing the drums was a whole thing where it's like, "Why are you playing the drums? What are you, gay?" I'd be like, "A little bit."
Wait, why was that the question that followed from you playing the drums?
Oh, because girls aren't meant to play the drums.
Drums are masculine. Drums
Yeah,
are for
drums are
boys.
masculine. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize that instruments were gendered.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I actually didn't realize that when I started playing the drums. But then as I moved through my teen years where everybody gets, I think that's like peak gendered time, actually. Is where everybody suddenly decides everything ever is gendered. It's like which ear is the gay ear to get your ear pierced on if you're a guy. I still don't know. Like I haven't got a clue. But my brother got his ears pierced the other day, and we were laughing about this whole notion that when we were teenagers, if a guy was getting his ears pierced, it was like a total depending. I don't know if that's the thing in America. Depending on what ear you got, it meant you're gay.
I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I don't think any of my gay friends there is a specific ear that they got pierced. No. So when I was a child, people said stuff like that. But then as an adult with gay friends, I think I don't think there's a coordinated, in the same way that like clothing is gendered, right? With the way the buttons are.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was that kind of thing where playing the drums was seen as a very masculine thing to do when I was, 12, 13, 14. And even up until I was maybe like 16, actually. So I found that a little bit difficult and a bit challenging, and I actually stopped playing the drums for a little while.
I want to go back to this for a second, but what about you, Sean?
I don't know. I don't feel like well, obviously, okay, to point out the obvious, I'm a straight cis white man, so it's obviously considerably easier for me anyway. But I don't know if I never felt like a particular like familial pressure to fit into a certain mold. I guess part of that is that, if you do decide that you don't want to, follow the kind of normal path that's been laid out for you, then it's like, well, what is the alternative to that? And it's like, oh, I don't know, though. Do I have to decide that for myself? And I guess maybe that's kind of where the kind of confusing conflict comes. But yeah, I obviously think I had an easier ride, probably, in terms of, in terms of that.
Well, maybe not,
yeah.
Sean. Okay,
Yeah.
Men's lives are
I don't
hard
know.
too.
I think, yeah.
What you say, men's lives matter.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah. But I mean, I don't think certainly there wasn't, and I mean this like, like from my family, so I don't think there was any expectation necessarily that I would do anything in particular or fulfill, a certain role with my life. It wasn't. I guess my parents were of that generation of the kind of like, I guess just before it kind of went really overboard, where it's like your kids can do whatever they want, anything, you can grow up to be whatever. Kind of before that went really crazy. And I feel like now maybe it's pared back a bit again, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, here in America, now it's pared back to be you can either drive for DoorDash or you can give up your body to become biofuel for robot dogs. Those are your two choices for
yeah.
Do the robot dogs go to heaven?
Do you know what I hadn't considered? Yeah.
Yeah, hey, it's open.
I hadn't considered the biofuel thing.
That's it.
Maybe I'll
I
do
think that would
Sounds
suit
lucrative.
you.
Maybe that's what
Oh,
I'll,
that's a bit of you.
yeah. Give away my body for the robo-dogs.
Yeah, you get a stipend now. And then a year from now, from now,
Okay, cool. Money up front.
a year
Great.
from now, you have to report to one of the biofuel processing plants.
I like this idea. Yeah.
I guess the thing that I'm trying to figure out is what made the three of you, was it just permissive parents? Or was there something about yourselves that made you impervious? Like Connie, like when people were saying like, I know you said you stopped for a little while, but you picked up the drums again then. Or,
Yeah, I did.
Did you ever come into school and with a spray tan or whatever?
No.
Did you? So, I mean, there was something about the three of you where you were like, well, I'm not going to. Like, I understand that there are these pressures on me, but I don't need to follow them.
Yeah.
Like, what was it? Was it something about yourselves, or was it more about your families, or what?
I think for me, mine was probably a lot about my family, but like my family also didn't think I was cool. So, like my older sisters, like I'm from an incredibly close family, but my older sister thought I was so uncool for a few years, and my younger brother thought I was so uncool that when he had parties downstairs, I wasn't allowed in the kitchen. So it wasn't like I was going home to some kind of like hype session of like, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. But I think that actually my mom had just raised me in a way where it didn't matter if it was even her other kids that were saying you're weird. She was like, I think you're fine.
Okay.
So to me, honestly, I think it was mainly my mom.
Okay.
Now my brother thinks I'm really cool, and that's so funny to me.
Now.
Like now he now like the past few years, I'm like his creative director. Like he sends me photos of outfits, and I'm like, no, we swap out those trousers with the other ones. And now I got to bring my sister to a festival last year. And I got to bring her to like the nice backstage area where there's real toilets. And suddenly she was like, I actually now understand how you live your life.
Yeah. So the minute it went from porta potties to actual toilets, then
Oh, yeah,
you
she
knew you
was-
had made it.
She was super on board then. She was super on board. Yeah.
Oh, you've 2-ply. Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's like a real sink in here.
Yeah, oh, not just
Yeah,
one of
that-
those ones where you have to pump it with your foot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, a real one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd say it's probably from my mom, but I also just do have, I guess, quite a strong sense of self and always have had. And that I think that just the longer you live, I'm speaking as if I'm like 85 years old, but the longer you live, the more you get proved right anyway with the things that you thought were cool 5 years ago. And I'm a very vindictive and bitter person, so I find that extremely rewarding.
Yeah. So spite, guilt, shame, resentment.
God, spite'll get me anywhere.
There's at the core of both of us. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Jamie, what about you? Is there something just like that's just
I think-
the way your brain is set up, or is it familial, or what?
Definitely like an element of the familial thing, but I think like what Connie touched on at the end, the like strong sense of self. I think like, yeah, like I always, had incredibly strong interests that like led me to where I am. And like, I know it's kind of like maybe a like slightly stereotypical thing to say, but like I feel like I could be in my like 7-year-old life right now, except I'm like 30 something. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't feel like my mind has actually changed that much.
Yeah, I get that.
And like yeah, I think something like this is kind of what I always figured I'd be doing.
Yeah.
But I think the idea that that is in any way a possibility, I think has to have come from my parents. Probably in a similar way to Connie as well, where it's not like, yeah, here, like, go do weird music stuff and like, you know, build studios and stuff. Like, that's an option for you. It was just like, yeah, I don't know, you'll be fine. Just like,
So it was more just like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, my mom didn't want me to get into music. No one in my family has ever been involved in music ever. My dad wasn't involved in music. My mom wasn't. Like, my siblings don't do music.
Yeah. Just like, oh, you seem to be enjoying yourself. Like, go for it.
I just got really into Linkin Park when I was 12. And my mom was like, do that then. That's great.
That's you sorted.
That's that now.
Okay, wait, okay, hold on. For all three of you, where did you grow up and what did your parents do for a living?
We all grew up in Dublin.
Okay.
So my mom, she did a couple of things. She was like a copy editor, not a copy editor, what do you call it? Proofreader. She like proofread novels and like some other, like, there was like, for a few years she was like proofreading like analysis of election results every couple of years or something. Then she went on to work in like, it's like a government information agency as like, again, sort of copy editor information. Like, she would read the government guidelines and stuff and then like figure out how to translate those into something that was legible. And then my dad was a lecturer in a college.
Oh, what subject?
So we started with like philosophy and then moved on to like history of politics.
Okay. I used to be a philosophy professor.
Oh, cool.
No way.
Yeah, it was
That's
nice.
very cool.
Yeah, my dad ended up doing that because he's from like a mining town in the north of England, and his family like weren't going to have money to like send all of his like fucking whatever 10 other siblings to school. So he was like, why don't you send me off to a monastery? I'll become a monk. The church will take care of me. And then was sent to college to study theology and philosophy and everything. And like through studying theology and philosophy and logic and stuff, he was just like, this doesn't make sense. Maybe I shouldn't be a monk. And then got kicked out of the monastery and like stuck around the college.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like me. I did the same thing, except I went to grad school and I'm like, the more I study philosophy, I'm like, hey, the way you guys do it doesn't make any sense. And then they kicked me out. Because I kept saying that to them. I was like, and they were like, we don't appreciate you telling us that our lives are meaningless. We are the professors. We run this thing. And I'm like, yeah, but you guys do it badly.
Yeah.
Weirdly, people in charge of things do not like it when you tell them repeatedly that the way that they do things
Who'd have
is
known?
shitty.
Who would know? Who could
Who would-
predict that, Andy?
Not me in my 20s.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I thought they would see that I was right. I thought,
Oh, this kid is smart.
There's
And like, yeah,
something
maybe we
so
should reconsider how
special.
philosophy works.
yeah,
There's
I
something
would.
so special about a guy in his 20s and the confidence that comes with that. Like, that should be studied.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And then I got into therapy and things figured themselves out. But yeah. So okay. So what kind of a middle class, Jamie? Middle class upbringing?
Yeah, fairly.
All right. What about you, Connie?
My mom is an occupational therapist, and she was a lecturer in occupational therapy as well in a college. So it had nothing to do with music.
Okay. Is that kind of middle class too? I'm just trying to
Yeah. My mom was from a working class family, but then just, I guess, kept doing education. She got a lot of scholarships and stuff, and just kept going.
Yeah, same.
Sean.
Yeah, both of my parents just worked in the civil service, which in Ireland in the 80s was kind of like, the only job we have for you is working for the government. Pretty
What-
much. So, yeah, they both did that for like 40 years, at least, I think, more. Yeah.
What did that mean exactly when you say civil service? Like,
So civil service is like, I mean, they would have started off in like, say, I don't know, the social welfare office, things like that. And then moved on. My mom they both ended up in taxes. My mom ended up at the very end of her career in like vehicle registration tax. And my dad ended up kind of like supervising the systems basically that they would employ for different methods of taxation. That's what they both ended up doing. But yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
But I think one of the things, whenever I talk to anyone from, I was going to maybe just say the UK or Ireland, but like maybe all, like anywhere outside of America. But like specifically, I think there's something about like, even if maybe it's like middle class or lower middle class or working class backgrounds, there is a feeling like you can go into the arts still. Whereas here, it's a lot more risky. Like I felt very risky. Like I had a small stipend. I mean, I was barely scraping by when I was in grad school, but I still had a stipend. I still was like being paid. So to leave that to go into doing some kind of, to move to New York and do comedy felt so risky that it like the fear like really stopped me for a long time. But it feels like maybe, I don't know. You tell me, Connie.
Just to clarify, none of us make money from mail. We all have jobs.
Yeah, we all have other jobs.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's just making music in the 21st century. I mean, like once,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say as well, like we pretty much all live, well, except for maybe Connie, but we did pretty much all live at home until very recently. Like, I mean,
a couple of years.
It's pretty hard to afford to live in Dublin. I'm the only one who still lives in Dublin because it's really expensive to live here. And if I didn't have a job, I would be living with my parents 100%. My brother has a really good job and he lives with my parents.
I still think though, to pursue it, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but to pursue it at all. Whereas you could maybe, what's the line for the three of you between being people who appreciate music and people who like feel like they have something inside and need to share it or connect with other people or have, whatever way that you are.
Well, I was going to say, actually, just because Jamie and Connie both said that they have, have always had a very strong sense of self, and that was what kind of drove them forward. I kind of didn't really know that I wanted to do music or that was a thing that I could do until Connie asked me to be in a band. Like I didn't play in bands and stuff. Connie just
found him in the record shop.
So, and then I was like, okay. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And that kind of, I guess from doing that, from like being like, oh, we're playing in a band. Then eventually, playing gigs. And like, it was like, oh, people, you can actually just kind of do this, I guess. I don't think I would have had certainly before that. And even now, it's kind of like more like with these people, I love doing this thing. But I don't know if I would have been able to get to that point by myself. It was kind of through being, I kind of did it the wrong way around. Like joined the band and then got the desire to be in the band.
I get that though. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know that I really wanted to do this until I was in a band in college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I get that.
Because
sometimes desires are just like sit dormant in you until you get into the situation where it, in my head, I was imagining like Jurassic Park and there's a dinosaur egg and it cracks open. So until like the conditions.
That's how Connie came into the shop that day. Just a dinosaur egg rolled in.
I just rolled on in there. I did a little tap, tap, tap on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Your egg tooth.
Yep.
Your creative egg tooth.
Yeah.
So I get that. But Jamie and Connie, were you cognizant of your existential desires, or did you have to like figure it out by like it? Did you have to just find it?
I always wanted to be in a band since I was like 12, maybe. I was like, I want to be in a band. I've actually never had a desire to be in a band as my like full-time job though. I just really wanted to play music with people that I found exciting and get to go places with that music. So that's why I walked into the shop. I sought Sean out. I didn't know Sean. Sean was a stranger to me that day.
Nearly.
Okay,
But I
wait,
was
sorry,
like-
hold on. Sorry. So you see Sean.
Yes.
What you're at
You're
work.
at work. Yeah.
I'm at work, by the way,
Sitting
I
right
I work in the
harassed
shop,
him
yeah.
in his workplace.
more or less.
What
yeah.
is the impetus? What is the like? Because if I saw someone and maybe I wanted to be in a band with them, I might.
This Connie has a very strong sense of
But
self.
there's a difference. Sorry, there's a difference between sense of self and then like.
sense of other people's selves.
Yeah.
Like I look back and I'm like, how the fuck did I do that? That's not something that 31-year-old me is like, I think I would do that now. I don't know how. I don't know how I had the nerve to walk. I was probably 20 at the time.
Sean was in a record shop. Like he had a guitar and he was just
No.
like fiddling around. How did you even
No.
know he played guitar?
I knew another guy who worked in the record shop, and I told him that I was starting this band, and I started the band with people who had never been in bands before and never played any instruments. And I was like, I think that's completely fine. I see no flaw in this plan. I may as well just continue with this as I'm going. And I also started the band out of pettiness and spite. And I didn't want to ask somebody that I already knew was part of like a Dublin band scene to be in the band, because I was like, no, you've all pissed me off so much. I'm starting this band. So it had to be an outsider. Sorry, Sean. They had to be an outsider. And we didn't have a guitarist. And what I wanted for the sound of the band was somebody that played guitar in an interesting way, not necessarily in a conventional way. And the guy that I knew in the shop had said in passing months beforehand about how Sean bought up all the weird guitar music before it even hit the shelves. So my college was not very far away from Sean's shop. And I just walked in one day and said, do you play guitar? And he said, I have a guitar. And I was like, perfect. And then did you give me your email address?
You gave me an email
Yeah.
address. No, you gave me an email address. So that's the only point of contact I had.
Yeah, smart.
Which was fair enough. I mean,
We had not
that done.
ever engaged before this. And Sean is now the only member of
Nice.
Mail who has played every single show.
I mean, that's very like band biopic type thing. Like you can imagine, you can see the camera following you into like, steady
Of my
cam,
dinosaur
egg
egg
rolls.
rolling.
right into the shop where you're like, we're gonna be in a band together, and then whoever's playing Sean is like, what?
Yeah, I was like really determined. But that's still is like that's exactly correct. I'm still surprised that you emailed me, Sean. But yeah,
There you go.
it was great.
I
The
don't know.
more we get
Yeah.
to know you, Sean, the more surprising it is that you sent that email.
The more it's me going, what?
Yeah, no, yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was like 10 years ago now, and yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I had that nerve still, but anyway.
That nerve still.
Oh, it's in there somewhere, Connie.
How many people do you want in this band?
No, I just for the rest of my life, Sean.
Jamie, I want to get to you in a second, but Sean, what made like a stranger comes in?
I don't know what it was. I don't know. I was just like, I guess I hadn't really thought about being in a band, or like I'd kind of messed around and done stuff, but I never really learned how to play the guitar properly, and I kind of had assumed that would disqualify me from ever being in a band. Like just not like in a oh no sad way, just in like,
Right.
well, obviously I'm not doing that. So yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of like, I think actually what it was I think maybe I'd emailed Connie and then she emailed me on the songs that they had done, and it was just drums, bass, and vocals. And the drums were like really on, and then the bass and the vocals were kind of all over the place. And I was like, honestly, this is great. I think you should just do this without the guitar. Um, so, and then she was like, no, you have to come down and do the thing. So yeah, we did. And then, I don't know. I don't know why I did. Yeah, I do remember though saying that it would have been better without me. I'm pretty sure that was my first takeaway. It was kind of like Skin Teen, that sort of like super sparse.
It wasn't better without you.
Yeah.
It seems like you're pretty easygoing, I guess, then. And wait, hold on, let me ask this. Are you someone who, if there's someone with a more forceful idea, you get drawn into whatever their opinion is or feeling is? Do you get overpowered?
I think maybe that's a little bit of it. I think it's actually more that I tend to be kind of polite to the point of like, no, it's fine. I'm fine here. This is okay. It's all good. And it would have been like really impolite to be like, no, I don't want to do that.
I would have just turned up at the shop again.
Yeah, just that. Yeah,
I would have been like, I know where you work.
Yeah, I think maybe it's more like yeah. I mean, even if I really, can't stand someone, I still can't often be like, please stop talking. So yeah, just that kind of like.
Yeah, I get you.
Would you mind not?
Yeah,
talking?
Jamie.
Yeah.
Let's find the core. Existential desires. Where did they form? What's going on?
Where do they form? I don't know. Like, some of my earliest memories of wanting to play music was like one of my neighbors had like an electric guitar and a bass that one of their friends had lent them. Like their parents had these in the house, and I was just like, what the fuck is that thing? That's so cool. Oh my god, it's only got 4 strings. Wow. And this will totally date when it was. It was when, is that the like 3rd Foo Fighters album came out with All My Life, all those tracks.
Was this late 90s, early 2000s? Somewhere around there?
Yeah. It was around that kind of time, and I was like, oh my god, you can like, that's what they used for these things. It's like, these are like loud, noisy instruments. Cool. Yeah, I guess it must have been. So I know that like my grandparents had like a piano in their house, and I would have like sat at that and just gone like boop 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 as like a fairly small kid. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, there just has always been this like strange internal drive towards like, oh, I can like make loads of really cool loud noises. Great.
So it's the noise part. It's the sound that entranced you.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's like I don't really consider myself a bassist. I can play bass, but like I use the bass to make noises, you know? And like any other instrument that I play, it's like, it's just a means to make a noise.
But was it always music? Was that the thing? Like, even when you were younger, there was no like, I want to be an astronaut or whatever kids try to be.
No, like, but even like as a kid, it wasn't like I wanted to be a musician. It was just, I wanted to be making noises. So yeah, I don't know how much more I can figure out what that is, where it comes from or anything, but yeah, I was just always fascinated by sounds and how they were made and how they can make you feel different things.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have to be like, you know, there isn't like some key that unlocks everyone's thing. Do you know what I mean? Like there isn't like I'm not asking this to be like, what was the, you know, did your parents pray? You made some noises and your parents were like, that's great, you're going to do that forever. Like there's not a thing like that. Like I don't know why it feels good to make sound like words that sound like other words when I write.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels good. There's nothing like, I don't know, you know,
Totally.
I'm not going to go back into my childhood. Like a therapist isn't going to talk to me. And, you know, it's just like, you know, when you were a kid, you were given a chocolate bar every time you wrote poetry or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a fun way to make a poet, I guess, right? Is give them candy every time.
I feel like it might be slightly unethical treatment of a child, but like,
I don't know. I hear that's how Second Coming got written.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the band that they did that with as well? The three sisters who were like locked in the basement. with
Shags, I think?
Yeah.
Shags, yeah.
The Shag.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Okay, we're like right towards the end, and I am curious still. Was there ever an alternate path for the three of you, or was it like once you had this like feeling like I like sounds or I like noise, or Connie, you were like I'm going to be in a band? Was there ever a tributary you took, or was it kind of just like once you had that idea, you were like, we're this is the path?
There was a few years, I don't know if I've talked to the other two about this, but there was a few years where I was like, I had to just like completely fucking withdraw from the world. And I was like, do you know what I could do? I could build a forge and become a blacksmith
I remember this.
and just like
I remember
go
this.
and live in the countryside and like fucking make gates and like make ornamental pot hangers and like just that is what I do. I'm just a weird fucking person who like lives down the lane and like runs a forge. That was like kind of the only other thing that, yeah,
Sorry. Okay. Did you take
was drawing me in.
Did you take any practical steps to do that? Did you buy a
Yeah.
anvil?
So my parents have like a small piece of land in the countryside, and that land used to be the dumping ground for a mechanics workshop that was across the road. So it is just like completely littered with loads of scrap metal. And there were some like, what are they called again? Like railway rails. That, yeah, basically I found like, so actually on that piece of land, like a couple of 100 years ago, there used to be a forge as well. So it's also littered with like loads of granite, like the building blocks of a forged building. So I was just like, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to like get all the rocks and I'm going to start rebuilding the forge. Yeah, so I did that for a few months.
I was nodding my head as if I knew anything about being a smithy at all, outside of seeing it in fantasy shows in like Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah, you think I have any idea what I was doing? I was having a mental breakdown.
No, I remember when this was happening, and I was like, "Okay, slay." I guess could see that for you. You know, whatever makes you happy.
I don't know if we had that word then.
Slay,
We didn't.
slay diva, build that sword.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, wait, but wait, was it really like? What year was this? I just want to like place this. Like, was this 2020 when everyone started to like when everything started to fall
was like
apart?
2016, 2017 sort of time.
Oh, which a
Like
great
maybe
time.
a little later.
A great time in your neck of the woods. I mean, I know it's not the UK, but like I know things were not great across the.
No.
I can't remember. I was having a fucking mental breakdown for years. Like I have no idea.
Wait, do you mind if I ask what was going on?
So it was just like I'd been in like this terrible relationship and I had been trying to figure out how to come out as trans like through the entire thing and like for a few years beforehand, and it was just like that relationship very much just like squashed me back into my little box, and I was just like, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to take antidepressants and just traumatize myself for years and then have a mental breakdown when it ends. So, yeah. That was cool.
Sure. Oh yeah. Sounds like it was a wonderful period of time for you. Here's a question though. Do you think that were you playing music at all through that time?
I never stopped making music. So I make music by myself and always have done as well. So the entire time through that I was doing that too.
Through the process, do you think how did your creative process work? Do you, like, I'm just curious, like if things I found, this is why I asked this. I found when I started going to therapy that, and I have like very just like, run of the mill bullshit type stuff. But like, I did find that once I started like working through therapy, that creatively things got better. And I'm always curious about that for other people, whether like, you know, going through kind of like difficult psychological things, like figuring yourself out, figuring out your identity, like like all of that, if it changes your creative process as well.
So I've done very like remarkably little therapy. Like it's kind of a miracle that I'm still alive for the amount of therapy that I haven't done that I really should be doing. So like through that entire time, I wasn't like, I was working on myself in a sense, but I wasn't like getting any help to do it. So maybe if I had been in therapy, I would have seen more changes to the creative practice and like how my creativity like was manifested. But I think it was just such a slow process over those like 4 years or so that like I look from like 2020 back to 2016 and I go like, okay, yeah, there's all of the differences. That's how I changed the person. That's how I worked changed. But like the whole way through, it was just like, So, yeah.
Was it even just more that like once you kind of figured out yourself that it was just you had more space for thinking about things creatively?
Yeah, like just more mental capacity to not be like freaking out about everything, and like, you know, being able to not go into something being like, I need to do this to like fucking distract myself from everything that's going on. And being able to go into something being like, maybe I want to make some music.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Connie and Sean, just quickly, were there other things you wanted to do in your lives?
Also blacksmithing.
I studied journalism. I have a degree in journalism, and I specialized in radio. And I used to work in radio, and I really liked that, to be honest. But while I was doing all of that, I was still in music. Like I was, 'cause I think maybe the fact that I've never had an attitude where it's like music or nothing. Like me being in a band and me making music is something that I just always trusted would happen while I'm doing anything else. Like it's not. And maybe when we started the band, I was like, "This music is not commercially viable," and yet this is the type of music I want to make. So it's something that's going to accompany me, rather than like guide me. Yeah, I would say. But I mean, I do think that I actually think that my other work, I don't work in radio anymore. I work in music management now. But I think that my work and being in a band actually complements each other quite well. So I don't find it to be much of an issue. Other than when like the last show we played, something was going really wrong with an artist I work for's merch, and I had like 4 calls from the green room.
Oh yeah,
that was a bit stressful.
That sounds chill. That sounds.
that was a bit stressful, and like being super on it while we're on tour and stuff. That can be a bit difficult. Like I was working throughout the US stuff.
That sounds stressful. I mean, I know like when I don't perform that much anymore live, but like you don't want to like you want to be as kind of in the moment as possible and not constantly looking at your phone till
definitely. I think the problem with music management is that like sometimes things just happen out of the blue and you don't know what's going to happen and you just kind of have to react. But then again, the fact that I work in music management means that I'm able to do things like go on tour and not be taking that as like annual leave holidays. The bands I work with like the fact that I'm in a band because supposedly I might understand what they're going through.
Sure.
So I definitely, I feel just as much of a sense of purpose with that job as I do with making music and playing with this band.
Sean, take us home. Was there any possible? Now you said you didn't really know what your desires were. So
yeah.
So was it just you were just kind of floating? Does that make sense?
I think definitely at that time anyway, and probably for quite a bit afterwards. Yeah, I still don't know if I don't really, I definitely, if whenever I do mess around and kind of do stuff for like by myself, I guess like creatively or whatever, I don't really get the same out of it. Like I think there's something very specific about like making something with other people that appeals to me more than it does
Yep.
than anything else. You know, I think that's what it is for me. It's not it the drive isn't necessarily there for me unless it's with these other people doing like this thing, you know. So yeah,
Jamie, Connie, Sean, thank you so much for joining me.
This has been so nice,
yeah.
Andy.
How do you? I was going to ask, how do you all feel? How do y'all feel?
How do y'all feel? Good, yeah. It has been real nice.
This has been such a gorgeous interview, Andy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love the new album.
Oh, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Well, hopefully we'll get back to America eventually when we're
Do you
suddenly rich.
really
and,
want to at this
and
point? At this
tick
point,
all the boxes that mean that they won't let us in.
Like the really annoying thing about getting back to America is that like I would fucking love to come back.
Yeah,
Like I had so much fun and like
we did have a good time.
yes, I know you were saying earlier on like, oh, people are nice everywhere, but like especially when you're going around playing music and like especially when you're going around like playing like feminist punk music, you end up in bubbles of like super cool, nice people.
Absolutely.
yeah.
So like, do you know, we just met such nice people when we were there. Like, yeah, it's just I would love to be able to come back.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah.
Allow us to come fiddle while it burns.
There was I was thinking this is a couple weeks ago. I'm like, do you think Nero was what was he playing? Like, was it like Turkey in the Straw? Like, what is going on? While what kind of like, oh, that's not it's not a bad I'd rather have that playing. I mean, the city I was in was on fire for most of January, so I kind of know.
Oh,
what that,
yeah, true. True.
I'd rather have something fun in the background than just like looking out every half hour to make sure the backyard's not aflame.
I don't think you want us soundtracking that, Andy. I think that's a bad idea for everyone.
But no, I get, Jamie, I get what you're saying. That I think that's, I get cynical sometimes, and I forget.
No way.
The fascists, there's, the fascists are such a small part of the population. It's just that they spent the last 50 years here figuring out how to gain power.
Yeah.
But most of the population is not shitty.
yeah.
So
No, we would like to come back. I mean, we've never done a proper US tour, we've never like driven around the States.
well, maybe that part's not great, but
Okay. Oh, never mind.
Like that kind of thing is exactly what I want to come back and do. Like I would love to come back and do just like an East Coast tour and then like fly over, do a West Coast tour and then like, maybe do a couple of other bits.
I mean, look, the middle of the country is great too.
Awesome.
It's
I'm
just,
sure it's fine.
It's more about the
I
driving.
want to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's plenty of great. It's more of the drive. Like my wife's black. Her mom's husband is from Uruguay. So the three of us once drove to Detroit because her family's in Detroit, and just driving through Ohio. The three of us, a black woman, a man from Uruguay, and a Jew. It was not. We did not feel super.
Peace and love.
Yeah. So maybe so all I'm saying is maybe the driving part, but the rest of it sounds good.
We'll just get a straight white Christian man to drive us everywhere.
That
And
should
then
be a business.
We'll fall
I think there's
asleep
probably a
for
few of
all
them
the
over there.
drives, and then it's fine. And then we wake up in the different places, and we're like, everyone's so nice.
Yeah. Look, mega churches here should offer that as a business where they have a
I'm
representative.
fascinated. Bestie, I'm fascinated by the mega churches.
Well, the next time you guys are on, we'll talk about this.
Yes, great. Episode 2 of Fuck America. Mega churches.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye.